Hey, what's going on YouTube? Follow up on my previous video doing the 7,000 projectile ball lightning strike test. Here is my actual build. Some people have been watching me work on this over the past week or so in Fresha, so I thought I'd do just kind of a build video. And I did put together a PoB. I had my viewers look over PoB for me. I actually do everything sort of napkin math by hand on Notepad. So I think it is configured appropriately. And so I'll attach that at the bottom of the video to look through. But I'll give you guys just sort of a build thesis, how it works, the different mechanisms at play here. And with the PoB, you can fiddle around with it if any of the settings are incorrect, but I'm pretty sure I did everything properly. I didn't want it to be misleading, but this is more just a video to show the mechanical interactions and the idea behind it. And if any of you are interested or wanting to try it out, also just to kind of share what I've been working on. So we'll see how that goes. Any case, what I'm playing is a infinite Vol lightning strike, strength stacking ancestral commander with infinite rage and very high amounts of EHP and sustain. Yeah, so let's show the basic concepts here. We're using a 9-link or 12-link dagger here. You can see on our regular lightning strike. We have all of those gem sockets. Actually, I suppose I'll show you. This is what one single cast of it looks like. When you're going in maps, obviously, you could just run around there. You can see I've got 102 max rage, and that does not drop at all. So we can just run around like that permanently. And in maps, we also have a second layer of rage generation. One is through Forbidden Rite and Vengeful Cry, which gives us with buff duration and max Warcry effect, max power. That makes it so that we generate, according to PoB actually, almost the exact correct amount of rage that is necessary, which is roughly 37.3, I believe, per second. Here is the sort of rough PoB outline. You can see the EHP, 428,000, 2,463 strength, 5,500 life, 400 million DPS. We've got max charges permanently, and the different gear things here. There's the setup. We'll touch this at the bottom to show you around. So I'm not going to do this in any mouse stuff. I'm very tired. I also have food delivery outside, but a bunch of people over the past little week have been asking me to put a video or a PoB out for this, and I'm going to be gone until Saturday. So I'll just put that out there in case anyone wants to try it before Fresha comes out. So, before the PoE 2 next thing comes out. So yeah, Ancestral Commander here. We've got the action speed, movement speed, and armor's doubled node. The 3 max endurance charges, the Warcry speed, and nearby enemies convert 50% of their physical damage to fire. The physical damage to fire we use because we have that combined with the Sublime Vision. 30% of lightning and cold are taken as fire, and then 50% of lightning and cold are taken as fire. And then lastly, on the Watcher's Eye, I don't know where that is, but it's another 20% fizz and lightning and cold are taken as fire damage, which means 100% of of lightning and cold are taken as fire, and then 50% of your fizz is also taken as fire, which means that the only resistance you need is fire res. And so since the only aura you can run is Purity of Fire, we get that here in a +2 replica Alberons, which gives it the 5 max reds, combined also with the Ruby Flask and Mage Blood with increased effect. As you can see here, it gives us 90 max res on the fire side. And then that also means that we can't be frozen or shocked. And then for ignite removal, you cannot be ignited with Purity of Fire on your Watcher's Eye, or if you want, you can use the Warcry thing here, where it removes all damaging ailments when you Warcry, which will also get rid of bleeds and poisons. So that is what we do with that defensive layer there. And then on top of that, we've got, because that's the only aura you can run, we also use Arctic Armor. And then on our helical ring here, we've also got Aspect of the Spider. And then for the rest of our reservation, we have Auto Exertion, General's Cry, Ancestral Cry, and Intimidating Cry. Now, you can see here, without Forbidden Rite up, we have 46 rage, as opposed to when we have it up, we have 102. And so when Forbidden Rite is up, when Vengeful Cry is up, which lasts 12 seconds, and you can increase that if you want to take further nodes into duration, there, and there. You can get it around 18 or 20 seconds, so you don't have to do that very often. The only time I would ever do that is in boss fights. In actual mapping, it's annoying to have to maintain something like that, and so having the auto exertion here with these 3 Warcries is more than enough rage sustain passively to not have to press any additional buttons while mapping. As you can see here, you're just going to like shield charge or frost blink, and then just drop a single one, and then the duration on the Vol Lightning Strikes is 10 seconds, so that'll clean everything up nicely. Plus we've got returning projectiles. I've also got a Nimbus, which you can swap in if you want, but I just wanted to go the doubling of the ring there that we got, since I did 31 crafts on that side of things. But you can see I have a whole tab of other alternatives here, you know, Emperor's Might, Emperor's Mastery, all that kind of stuff. I started crafting a mirror ring, +4 amulet, all the different helicals, and blah blah blah. There's tons of different variants on this. Again, this is more just sort of an archetypal demonstration. And then to be able to manage the mana costs of this, all we do is a single cluster here, small cluster with either the reservation efficiency and putting Pure Might, which is Purity of Fire's 80% less reservation. Since that's our only aura, that's a huge stop. Plus it gives 20 strength, which is great for the build. Over here, we get Unholy Might, since we are entirely Chaos-based because of the strength stacking element, and so that gives us Wither for free. Then we've got our War Cries, which give us Endurance, Frenzy, or Power charges per power. As you can see, I have automated maximum charges. And then we also have enemies that you taunt, all the War Cries taunt, make them take 6% increased damage. Up here, the reason why we don't have this node connected is so that we can get a better impact from the split personalities, which give, you can see, 2451 strength. So that's almost 100 strength, and we've got 5400 life, 200 life per that, per each one of those as well. Impossible Escape we have down here, giving us Savage Intensity, which reduces the rage cost above 20 rage by 20%, and the Tireless Wheel, which gives us another 15%, combined with 25% on Hate Forge, makes the rage cost of Vol Lightning Strike only 8, and again, our maximum rage is 102 or 46 otherwise, and we can also take 2 points right here to increase that to 53 passively, and if you want to, you can also come down here and get these 2 as well to make it 55 passively. I'm only level 96, and so obviously you have 4 additional points. There's a lot of things you could change on this. It's fairly malleable. The endurance charges give another defensive layer, as well as using the endurance charge on melee stun. You get the 4% increased damage for that. So we have 8 power or endurance charges right now. You can obviously get a 9th one right there, and you can also get endurance charges on your rings if you want, with synth rings if you don't want to use mirrored helicals. Or you could, if you really want to get funky with it, you could use something like this Precursors, which gives +1 endurance charge and like Iron Reflexes at max charges. Again, I've got a lot of different variants to this. It's one of the reasons why I don't put out build guides often, because saying something is the best definitively, or having a specific setup, I'm going to have it set up differently if I'm just mapping consistently versus if I'm farming beasts versus if I'm doing Ubers or whatever it is. So again, take everything with a grain of salt and understand that things can be shifted around as necessary. But yeah, the basic functionality, Vol Lightning Strike is in the dagger here. The socketed Vol skills do not apply soul gain prevention. Means that there obviously is no soul gain prevention, and then the Hate Forge makes it so the rage cost instead of soul cost, right? And so the links that we have on that: faster attacks, crit damage, crit strikes, the more damage, the elemental damage of the attacks doesn't actually do anything on this than the Chaos Pen. Then Void Manipulation, Endurance Charge on melee stun, Nightblade, which is another defensive layer too, as well as it gives us crit and a ton of multi, because that gives you elusive, which is great because that's dagger only. Returning Projectiles, which we can swap with Nimbus too. If you want, you can put another damaging jewel in there. And then Volatility, of course. To get our flat damage, we have that through Replica Alberons, which is 1 to 80 chaos damage per 80 strength, right? So we have times 30, so we would have 30 to 2400 flat chaos damage. And then the Iron Fortress gives us 3 melee physical damage per 10 strength. Normally you get 1% for 5, so it would be 2, so it's 50% basically increased effectiveness of strength or melee damage. But then we also take Iron Will, which makes the strength damage bonus apply to spell damage. And so then you also take Crown of Eyes, which makes it so that spell damage increase is then multiplied by another 1.5 effectiveness to apply to attacks. And so this basically triples your damage, that interaction there. On top of that too, Iron Fortress makes it so you get a block chance for strength, and so we also have max block, as you can see, 75% there. So you've got the elusive, you've got the max block, you've got the all of it taken as fire with 90% max res. You've got what do I have here on the character? 55% evasion, about 11,000 armor. The armor's not a huge thing there. You can get stack armor quite a bit higher too. If you want to take these points here, you could take +1 armor per 2 strength, and as well take vengeance so that you get 1% armor per rage. And you can also take the Warcry thing here, for the name of it. Where is it? Warning Call, which gives you another 100% armor automated through your Warcries, and you can put on like a Granite Flask with increased armor percentage if you want to get that armor higher, or again, you go Iron Reflexes. Lots of options there. Let's see, what else do things do here? Squires, obviously, I could get a better corruption on this, or a corruption in general on this, as well, to make that better. But that obviously just augments the thing there. The Hate Forge, inside of that, we've got Shield Charge for mobility with Fortify. Fortify being another defensive layer and faster attacks, as well as Frostblink, since Shield Charge can't navigate, ledges and stuff like that. I just put that for sake of ease. I have Lightning Golem and Blood Rage in here on the PoB, and this is how it should be set up since the PoB is benchmarked against single target. This would be like Sniper's Mark and Mark on Hit, because that's obviously a pretty big damage multiplier in terms of damage, increased damage taken. Then we've got the Purity of Fire, again with the +2, so that goes to 5 on the max rage. We've got the Arctic Armor up in here with Enlighten, and then the 3 automated Warcries. As you can see, we will have our rage just goes up automatically like that, and it never, since the cooldown due to the node right here, 120% cooldown recovery rate, that allows us to have our Warcries go off faster than the start of a degeneration from rage. The way that we get that is through Warcries grant 1 rage per 5 enemy power up to 5, right? Which means you can get upwards with, if you have at least 25 power, you would get 5 rage per. And then we combine that with Shion's Sun's Roar here, and you can see that does infinite power for your Warcries. Which is how we also sustain. We get all our charges off of that. You can also, if you want to use a medium cluster, get Onslaught for free there, and the 100% armor, Intimidate, bunch of things like that. We get our Intimidate through the Intimidating, we get Intimidating Cry, but you can also, there's also a Mastery for Rage that can provide Intimidate. And then we get a lot of Warcry buff effect here, so 10%, 20%. We get the 30% from the Shion, so that's 50%. And then we get 55%, 65%, 75%, 95%, 105%, 125%, right? And so then you look at Vengeful Cry, which gives you 3 rage per second, per 5 power, up to 25 power. So that's 15 rage per second times 125%. So 15 times 2.25. So we get 33.75 rage per second just from Vengeful Cry and Forbidden Rite. But as I said, we also have it automated here for mapping sake, because when you're doing maps, you don't actually need to have to be doing that very often, right? Like if you want to go into a single target situation before the boss fight, hit Forbidden Rage, do this, and because the duration of them is so long, you can actually like preload the fight, drop like 15 of them. If you guys watch my previous video testing, the game crashes after around like 15 or 20 casts, so you actually do have to be careful. This MTX seems to help quite a bit though. On top of that, offensively, we've got 100% crit chance. It can't miss Vol skills, right? Right now it says we only have 95% crit chance, so that's because we don't have the Nightblade up. The Elusive gives you another 1.1% base crit, so that'll be 100%. And then, 454 multi. The projectiles, we shoot out 10 of them, and then we've got 15% Chaos Pen from the Amulet Anointment, and 13% there. So we've got, the crit cap on that, the life regen through this, some armor, and increased effect on Onslaught, and then the evasion there. Again, the ailments are taken care of through the conversions. And then the Warcries take care of that. Is there anything else to point out here of note? Sublime Vision, the endurance charges, which again, endurance charges too, having 8 of those is 30%, 32% reduced damage after. So like the 90%, any elemental damage on a hit, 90% of that's reduced, and then 32% less. So if you got hit with 100 damage, let's say, you get 10, and then the 32 reduction would make that 60. So you get hit with 6.8 damage. So in total, just on that side of things. And then with the Fizz, obviously, you have that mitigated partially through there, partially through armor. Armor, obviously, is not if you're familiar with the defense mechanism of armor. I won't go into that in this video, but it's based on the size of the hit. It's a little bit of a funky mechanic, but again, the endurance charges do help with that as well. And then you've also got block to cover that, and then you've also got Arctic armor, which makes you take 22% less physical damage taken, 21% less fire damage taken when stationary, and it freezes your enemies as well. You can get Warcry Mastery, Debilitate, which makes them deal 10% less damage. Offensively, I've got Aspect of the Spider, which makes them take 20% increased damage. We get regen per endurance charges there. We get a ton of life, attack speed nodes. Actually, this is a really cool Lethal Pride too, which is so perfect for this build. I couldn't believe I found this. But it's important to get Lethal Pride so you can get Tempered by War. All right, and if you look at this Lethal Pride, traveling up here, you can get, if you want to lower your cooldown, like let's say you want to take the 15% missing unreserved life before you're hit by an enemy, which I probably would in harder situations, and so you need some cooldown recovery, right? You can take these 3 points here or 4 points here, and you can get 65% cooldown recovery, and on top of that, that's got 5% strength, right? Then we come pop here, boom, 5% strength, 5% strength, 1 point each travel. Then you've already got to take the tireless wheel, right? But that boom, then you come up here, another 5% strength, and it also gives 800 armor if you block recently, which we do. And oh, look at this, Staff Mastery, Unholy Might on block. So if you want to automate Unholy Might, there's Unholy Might automated for you for free, plus you get 5%, 10%, 15%, 20% strength, and if you really want to, pop down here and pop over here, Arsonist, regen, 1.2 with another 5% strength, and because the only res that we have to stack is fire res, you could theoretically stack that very high and then take the mastery, regen 1% per 1 life regen per 1 overcapped. Currently I only have 2 of these strength nodes of the 5 possible, because as you see I have 2450 life, which so I didn't really need any more. You take the life mastery because you have so much flat life, it does a ton for you. Or if you're having trouble maintaining the mana cost passively with the cries, you can also take the skills cost 15 life instead of mana, or you can just fully get rid of that issue by putting on a -7 channeling on one of your rings, and that'll fucking take care of all of the mana problems that you would possibly have. The duration here impacts the Vault Lightning Strike as well as the Warcries, and the more duration obviously is a more multiplier to that. We have the more duration on Vengeful Cry, but you can also put that onto Lightning Strike as well if you want it in a single target scenario. Got the little regen there, the Warcry buff effect. I don't think, is there anything else mechanically that needs to be explained? Fire res, boom, boom, boom. Blood rage is for attack. Again, that would be Sniper's Mark normally. Same thing with that. The rage on hit, we're just trying to get as high max rage as you can here. Obviously that's the sustain. Rage by itself obviously of course too is 100% or 102% more more attack damage, and then on our large clusters here we get 16% damage, 4% attack speed, 13 flat life, and 10 strength per node. Every single flat point of strength turns to about 2, and every percentage strength is about 1.2 to 12 rather. So like 5% strength will be like 60 strength, and so you have to balance that out. You know, the more of one that you have, the less you have of another. But yeah, because you're able to bypass having to scale any kind of resistances aside from fire, that makes that very easy. You can see my chaos res is quite low now. That's just because I didn't really need it. You can take this right here. I didn't even have time yet to get the the elevated version of these, or whatever they're called, but you do also have the chance to avoid projectiles. Avoid projectiles have chain, reduce elemental damage. You've taken a hit recently, and the fizz reduction for nearby enemies, that helps with that. And again, because I had to leave, I haven't, you'll see on the PoB that I have a different couple of the small clusters here. What I would put instead of this would be 14 strength, 8 chaos res, a 35% increased effect, and 16 life. That'll still cover your that'll still cover the mana reservation requirements. In fact, you'll actually have more unreserved mana, and that would also give you 30 chaos res. And then I would swap out the second split personality here, because I'm only 96. The other 3 points I would put for life, doing the same thing. So I would take a life small cluster, and I would put the 16 life, 35% increased effect, 14 strength, and the chaos res, and that 14 strength would go up to 18, which actually gives 54. So you can see it's actually more strength anyways than this, and so that would be the remaining points there. Oh, and then you could put in Debilitate, or if you want to automate the removal of any possible ailments, put that through the Warcry there. There's really a ton of things you can do with this. It's a pretty cool concept. There's a lot going on with it, but I really wanted to try out the archetype, and you know, being able to combine chaos, which is great for, you know, no reflect things. It's harder to find monsters that have a lot of resistances to it. And Vault Lightning Strike's just a cool skill. I think that the interaction between the daggers and this is really cool, and it's not often that you get like a very heavily attack-based thing that has a ton of dagger usage. And so having daggers have a lot of pretty cool nodes associated with them on the tree that I'll let you guys explore if you want to. But one of them, for example, Fan of Blades, being able to get an additional projectile for free. You can get elusive effect on the tree. You can also use Awakened added chaos damage. If you have a low amount of strength, that'll help boost your flat damage quite a bit. You can throw in there different ring variants. If you have problems sustaining, you can put on Enduring Cry, or you can put on Instant Leech. The helmet does give you Mana Leech and Life Leech. So that's depending on how your sustain is. Otherwise, that's a thing you can do there as well. Or if you find yourself manually casting Warcries often, recover 15% every time you use a Warcry. And obviously, you can also put in Ancestral Defiance for the 15% gained, like what Defiance of Destiny does. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview of how the build works. I'm sorry, I know this is not a comprehensive guide, as you know, most people often do with these things. I tend to shy away from making build guides just because people seem to be so militant about them, and because when I started playing Path of Exile, Path of Building and none of these third-party things existed, I never got used to playing them, and when I came back from the army, I just never really adjusted. So I still actually do everything manually, and then if I ever need to present it to anyone or whatever, I will put together a PoB just to compare different items or stuff. So you'll see that I have all these different tabs here where my computer's lagging to shit, but I do have all these different tabs where I keep track of different breakpoints, and I just use a lot of regrets. I was pretty proud though, because you can see my rage cost here is 36.55 per second, and our rage regen just from Vengeful Cries 33.7, plus we get the other rage from the other Warcries passively, and so I almost perfectly did that in my head to make it so that I can infinitely sustain. So we'll let this get to max rage, and you'll see that I can basically infinitely sustain holding down the right thing right there, so that we get the full effect of the rage still. So I thought that was pretty cool level and min-maxing there. The configurations on this, you know, we do have all of our charges automated. There's the stuff there. We are fortified with Onslaught. We have life tap through Vengeful Cry. Elusive, there's our rage. Again, this is set up, I put for level 100. I'm assuming anyone that would have enough money to do this for the most part would be around that level, but that's because if you take 1 point here for their rage and then take the rage mastery, you could get that. What else was changed? Oh yeah, as I mentioned too, I have this right here with the Chaos Res, Life, Strength, and Effect, because I do actually have these jewels, just didn't have time to finish crafting them before I recorded this. And a second one right there, as I mentioned, for the next level points, as well as the Debilitate onto the Warcry Mastery. So that's why that's configured that way. We have Withered given from Unholy Might. Spider stacks of 4. Our Warcry is always max power. This is done on a Guardian boss and a Pinnacle. The one thing I was the least certain about, because we do attack, 4.5 times a second, right? So that means that you would drop the orb, or you would put it on, hit the enemy with the strike side of that, and then you would have your projectiles go out, which I'm pretty sure Lightning Strike can hit twice on a single target. I didn't know for sure though, so don't excoriate me if this is incorrect, because again, I don't use PoB that often. But in terms of figuring out the DPS, I put the Vault Lightning Strike setup here. I put 4 times for the melee hit, and then 9 for the projectile. Since it's 4.5 times a second, that means it would be you can't put half second, so I put 4 on the melee hit. So I did times 4 on the count, and then on the projectile one I put times 9, which is actually exactly what it would be, a little bit less. The lightning strike on the melee hit is actually less than it would be, but according to this, as I have it set up, our effective hit pool is 428,000, which is incredibly high. Our DPS single target 415 million. And then for the calculations, it says 38 seconds time before death, just standing still or whatever. And you can see here that the weakness on this would be the Fizz max hit, because this is benchmarked against a boss too. Another thing you can do, even though you would never do this in mapping, is just put increased effect on your Progenesis. That's an easy way to kind of cheese that. It's one of the things I don't really like about looking at PoB builds, is that I feel like there's too many ways to cheese them. I did my best to not do that here, but hopefully if there's any issues on this, you could point them out to me and I could adjust those in case anyone finds this interesting. I thought the idea was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun making it. And so hopefully some of you guys enjoyed this, and if not, maybe just something a little bit different, but I thought this was pretty fun to put together. It's not too often I get too many new experiences with respect to PoE, so this was my best attempt at doing something original. I'm not sure if anyone ever did this before. I don't think so. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. And let me know if you have any questions, and take care, lads. I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.